Hello everyone. In today's video I figured we'd go over something pretty important. I was actually gonna make a video all about just me doing a redraw. I don't know, I wasn't feeling it. And so I kind of started looking at other people's artwork, and one thing I'm noticing is some people just don't seem to really understand how to color skin. And you know what, that's completely fine. I understand we're all in different stages of our art journeys, but I want to make it a little easier on you guys, and I figured I'd just do a tutorial just completely on skin and how to color in skin. So we've got here a little redraw of a previous artwork I've done. Okay, first thing I always do when starting to color is I create a clipping mask. Basically, I select the outside of my character. I accidentally selected where his backpack should be. Basically, anywhere your character is not, you're going to select that. And then you're going to actually reverse that, invert that. You're going to invert the selection and then fill in the selection. Granted, using the fill tool, there's always going to be a few little mistakes. But it's no big deal. I just kind of go around and erase all the little bits that shouldn't be there and fill in some bits that didn't get filled. You'll see I missed a step here. Basically what I always do is I create that clipping mask. Then that's when I usually lock the transparency so I can't go any farther than what I've already drawn on that layer. And then I'll create a folder above that. And in that folder I will clip it to the mask below, and therefore I cannot draw outside of the selection I made in the red. Now, why do I choose red? Well, I just think it makes it easier to see what I'm doing. Now, enough about clipping masks. Let's get into like the actual skin. Okay, one of the number one things I see people do, and it really bothers me, if you're going to choose if you want your character to have really like pasty skin, please do not choose pure white. No one has pure white skin. So actually I've demonstrated here. He looks crazy if I try and give him just a pure white skin tone. Like, it's blinding. So basically what I would say for if you want your character to have light skin, go for a more gray color. I'm not saying make them absolutely gray. Depending on the character, you'll probably want them to have a little bit more of either a red or orange tint to their skin, even those with more olive complexions. Now that I have all of his skin filled in, the next step would be to do the shading, lighting, that sort of thing. Instead of just first going in with all the fancy stuff on his face, I thought I would just show you point blank how skin works. So what I've got here is my little circle, and I'm going to turn this thing into a sample of flesh. So this is going to be our skin tone. This is his exact skin tone, just to demonstrate. The rules apply to pretty much every color of skin, but this time I decided to just go with this because it's a happy medium. So first off, I go in with my airbrush and just do the really gentle, soft shadows on the skin. Now I don't do really dark colors. You'll see there's barely any change here, but you can see there are subtle hints of color, like his cheek below his eye. It's going to have that like little pink color of blush. For lighter skin tones, I use a more pink color, but typically I'll use a color somewhere between orange and red. Okay, so we'll go in with, I decided to use a cooler color. It's actually, you'll notice a more, where he has an orangey skin tone, an orangey reddish skin tone. I actually decided to give this little flesh sample. I added a layer, clipped it to the bottom one, and started shading with a more purpley color, and this adds just so much pop and brightness. Next up is I'll add another layer, set it to multiply, clip it below, and do a second layer of shadow where the shadow is going to be the darkest. After this, I go in with my airbrush and just add a little tiny bit of light to where the light source is. Because, and this is very important, because obviously our skin is lighter where there is light, but the mistake people often make is that they will literally just like make the skin so insanely shiny or so insanely matte that it's strange and it doesn't look right. Your skin is a little bit shiny, but it's mostly matte. So here we have our little sample of flesh. That feels worse every time I say it. So what we're gonna do now is apply everything we just learned to our actual art. Let me see. So if you remember, the first thing we do is add a little bit of blush. Not an insane amount, just enough to where we can tell that the character actually has blood and actually is alive and not dead. Because most living people have a certain extent of redness or blush on their face. Because we're not dead, and if you are, please consult a medical professional right away. So you'll see I do all these soft shadows where there's gonna be soft shadows. It's not the shadow, but it adds to the shadow. Alright, so obviously next step is to go ahead and add the shadows. So remember, we add a new layer, set it to multiply, and if the shadows are a little dark, that is okay because we can lower the opacity later. So first, I'm going to add the little shadow for that little tiny strand of hair he has right there, and then kind of clean it up. And so it wasn't quite thin enough, so I cleaned it up a little. And you'll see how just, like, it's already starting to look a little more 3D. It's not, like, completely rendered, but it's something. We have a shadow. It's amazing. Amazing what a shadow can do. And so we're just gonna start filling in all the shadows where there needs to be shadows. Definitely one of the things you should study if you're going to be doing a lot of portraits is the planes of the face. It is so important. Please learn these. Alright, so now that I've done all the shadows, I went back and added the darker shadows, and then you'll see here under the chin, that's kind of a softer, it kind of gets dark, it's kind of like a gradient from a lighter shadow to a darker shadow, so I do kind of smudge that out a little bit. Again, we don't want to get overly smudgy with our drawings. We do have soft lighting in real life, but not every light is a soft light. Okay, so here's something interesting I do. I add a little bit of blue beneath his chin. It's not a really dark blue or anything, but it's blue. So that's about it for this video, and if you want to see more content like this, please remember to like and subscribe. Hope you guys have a great week, and have a great evening. Bye!